right, so we're here on the Zoom meeting today talking about Woodstock Academy. I am Amy Favreau, the Assistant Director of, that's not really my title. My real title is Assistant Head of Enrollment at Woodstock Academy. And I have the admissions team with me here today. I have Jacque Rivera, who works in admissions and recruiting and is our head prep basketball coach. I also have Kevin Bisson, an assistant director of admissions, also works as a coach in ice hockey, and lives in Worcester. And then I have Katherine Gonzalez, who's an assistant director of admissions and lives in Pomfret. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been in contact with some of our students and potential applicants over the next year or two, and we just wanted to go over some questions that students and families have locally and globally about the Woodstock Academy and things that we can help students and families understand about our school. So I'm going to try to answer as many of these questions that came from parents and students while the members of my team sort of fire questions at me. So we're going to start with Katherine. If you could give me some of the questions that came through during our open house.
Yes, I have Ella in Union. She wants to know how many AP classes she can take.
Great question. So our AP program is pretty large. We have over 20 classes that students can take. Starting their sophomore year, they can take AP classes in biology and then move on to classes in the AP program in English, science, humanities, all the different languages that we offer, and even in art and some of the other programs. So kids can often take 4 to 5 AP classes and tests by the time they graduate.
I also have Sophie from Thompson. She wonders how she can choose her classes.
Great. So the way that works is that happens through your guidance counselor. So your guidance counselors will work with you to create a schedule prior to arrival, especially your freshman year. And even then they'll look at your 4-year plan and try to figure out how many classes you're going to need each year, what types of classes you want to take, and what your goals are, what colleges you might want to attend, what programs you are interested in. And they work on balancing the classes you must take in terms of the requirements and also the classes that you're interested in terms of electives and things that you might find fun.
Great. I have a lot more questions. Should I continue?
Yeah, let's see if Kevin saw any questions that he wanted to see the answers to.
Sure. So along the lines of the classroom questions and classes questions, James in Brooklyn was wondering how many students are going to be in each class.
That's a great question. So we have a total population of 1,085. Sometimes we're even a little bit bigger than that. So we're a relatively big school, but our class sizes remain small. We keep our class sizes between 17 and 22. And so some of those classes will be even smaller than that if they're specialized, if they're in a science or in a world language. And then there are other classes that might be slightly larger, like your band classes and your chorus classes, which are going to be quite large because they're larger ensembles. And then the other side of that too is how many are in each grade, and there's usually around, the average is about 250 in each grade, grades 9 through 12, and then we do have a small postgraduate program where we usually have about maybe 20 to 23.
To continue on the classes in that realm, Jacque in Pomfret Community School wants to know how much homework do students get?
That's a good question. Students only have 4 classes at a time. They'll have 4 classes the first semester and 4 classes the second semester. So 8 credits are earned in the year. But because they only have 4 classes at a time, that usually does cut their average homework down. I would say that if a student has 3 core classes, meaning you might have English, a world language, and a math class in your first semester, and then your 4th class is an elective, you might have between an hour and a half of homework each night. Some nights you'll have very little. I think it's a great thing to talk about homework as well, because our teachers and our staff have done a lot of research on the quality of homework, and they really try to give homework assignments that are necessary for furthering the acquisition of knowledge and not just busy work. So there's a lot of push at the school to not just give a kid a worksheet or an assignment, but to really make sure that the work that they're doing at home is going to enhance their knowledge of what they used in the classroom and give them the tools they need to maybe participate in the debate or complete the experiment, but something that's really useful for them in that classroom. Jacque is with us today. He's always traveling and recruiting, so he's out there on the road, and you may see some of the glitches in his screen, but let's see if he has any questions from some of the kids out there.
Hi, Amy. Thanks. Hello to everyone. I want to shift gears. I think a lot of our students asked some really great questions in terms of the academics. One of the things I think is extremely important as a coach, we had a student, Katherine from Pomfret, asked, when do I have lunch?
That's a great question. Lunch is presented during the third block, and so it could be anywhere between about 10:45 in the morning and 12:45. So the lunch block will be dependent on what your third block of the day is, and it's generally based on your location. So if you're in our Bowen building, you might have first lunch. If you're in the Academy building, you might have second lunch. Lunch is 30 minutes long, and certainly we provide a nice lunchroom experience, dining hall. We have 2 dining halls. Students can buy lunch here, or they can bring their lunch, and then they can also have an account where they have money set aside so that they can just go through the lunch line and plug their number in and then get what they want. They don't have to have cash on them or anything like that. So it's a good experience. I often get asked about the food and if it's any good. And I would have to say that I often eat here, so I think it is pretty good. But I would say kids are about 50-50. 50% of the kids really bring their stuff, and the other 50% will definitely buy. And I do feel that the lunch program and the providers are very responsive to student needs. If there's a student who wants to have gluten-free meals, or they're vegetarian, or they just have certain things that they either want more of or less of, I think that the cafeteria staff and the dining hall staff is very responsive to that, and will try to provide and make sure that every kid is accommodated in the best way they can.
Awesome. Thank you. I would second that as well. I eat in the dining commons as well. It's really good. So another question, Katherine from Pomfret would like to know if they can take photography.
Yep, photography is offered in our art department. There's over 15 classes offered in the art department, and usually photography is one of those higher level classes that students sort of have to work up to. There's an Art 1 and some of the introductory courses, and then students can go, into all kinds of art like ceramics, the photography that you mentioned, sculpture, painting, drawing, graphic design. We do also have an art gallery on campus where we bring in outside artists, and also oftentimes our students do shows. So we have opportunities for students to not only manage and organize a gallery, but also display their art in that gallery, if that's something that they want to aspire to do.
Awesome. And if it's okay, may I ask one more question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brooke from Eastford, would like to know, what do we have for sport offerings?
Sure. Good question. We do offer our athletics in 3 seasons. There's the fall, winter, and spring. We pretty much have everything. In the fall, there's soccer, there's cross country, there's field hockey, there's volleyball. And then moving into winter, we have basketball and, I forgot football and cheerleading in the fall, I'm sorry. But back to the winter, we have ice hockey, both for boys and girls. We have basketball. There's indoor track. There are opportunities also in season and off season for the weight room and training. And then moving into the spring, we have baseball, softball, golf, track and field, lacrosse. Am I missing any?
I don't know if you mentioned it, but gymnastics.
Oh yeah, gymnastics, which is a winter sport. We also have a very competitive gymnastics team in the state of Connecticut. So that's an interesting level. And there is a cheerleading team both in the fall and in the winter. And all the sports I mentioned, they have several levels. So they all definitely have a varsity level. almost all of them have a junior varsity level. And in many cases, we even have what we call like a freshman level or an introductory level. So it does depend on the sport in terms of how many students are involved and what the skill levels are. But there's definitely each season, there's an opportunity for students to get involved in that. And even keep training in the off season. And we find that that's very important. We have 2 athletic trainers on campus, in addition to a strength and conditioning coach who works both with our coaches and staff, but also with the students to try to meet their individual goals and whatnot. So it's a great question.
To expand on that particular topic, because one of the questions I had a student ask me here, Brittany in Woodstock was asking, how easy or difficult is it to make a sports team? And so just to kind of elaborate a little further, as Amy was saying, every program for the most part has 2 or even 3 different teams that you have the opportunity to compete and participate on. So certainly, freshmen coming in, they worry, will I have an opportunity? And for the most part, each program does have either a freshman level isolated just for freshmen, or at least a junior varsity level before advancing up the ladder to the varsity level. So while all our athletics are competitive, there is still at least a path for everybody to take to work their way through their 4 years of an athletic experience.
Yeah, that's a really good response to that. And I also think if there is a person out there listening to this and you have a particular question, you really want to know about one of the sports or something, a great resource, and he's not with us today, but is Sean Saucier. He's our athletic director currently. He's easy to get a hold of. You can send him a quick email. He's on our website. And he could answer more specific questions if someone was unsure. You can also check some of our social media for the announcements just to see, how our teams are doing and things like that. So that's all some really good advice about our athletics.
So Amy, since we've been talking so much about athletics, to shift to another side of what the academic experience would be, what are some of the other clubs? So if I'm not overly into the athletic side of things, what are some of the clubs and activities that we could potentially get involved in?
Yeah, there's tons, but I think I like to categorize them a little bit. So, first you kind of have your special interest club. So you want to be on the robotics club, we have that. You want to be on a math team, we have that. So those types of clubs and organizations are specific sometimes to a certain discipline or curriculum, and they usually have a competitive piece to them. You end up competing in the region or in the state or even beyond, depending on what there is. So there's math and there's robotics and there's science and there's the environmental group that does like an envirothon and they solve different problems. The Model UN kind of falls into that category as well. They work really hard to prepare different research, and then they go to conferences around the country, compete together. So that's one group. Then there's, of course, a group of community service type of organizations that look at the community both in and around the school and beyond, and they work on things like food drives or volunteering, tutoring, lots of different organizations centered around making sure that the community is healthy and safe and that they're providing for anything that they need there. Another group of programs that people can get involved in are honor societies. We have National Honor Society, Science Honor Society, Math Honor Society, the Music Honor Society. And those groups, while they're sort of a way to just appreciate the accomplishments the students have made academically, they also have an element to them where students do some community service, giving back, and also some leadership opportunities for students. And so I think those are sort of a lot of the categories that these clubs and organizations fall into. We also have some that are just sort of fun. We have a tabletop tennis or ping pong club that meets after school. We've had in the past ultimate frisbee groups that just get together and play. So it just depends on the students, what they want to do. There are opportunities for students if they want to add a club or activity to go right ahead and do that. So I think there's a wide variety. I can never keep fully the count, but we're somewhere around 55 to 57 clubs and organizations. So depending on what your interest level is, you can be involved in one or more of those to just round out your educational experience and make sure that you're, not only just learning at high school, but also really having a fun and enjoyable experience.
I want to shift gears a little just because I have a few questions from international students. One of those is, when does school usually start?
Good question. In terms of in the day, do you think, or in the year, or both?
I think in the day,
Yeah.
but I would like to answer the in the year, just because in different countries they start the school year in different times. Sometimes in the winter. For us, it's at the end of summer.
Right. So we'll start our school year every year in August. We'll generally we start August 25th. That's about the average. Sometimes it's the 26th or the 24th, but that's about when we begin. Our first semester then ends in the middle of January, and then the next semester starts, and then we go right all the way through to the middle of June. So there's two opportunities to start school. One is the end of August, and one is in the middle of January. So if someone were coming and was coming from another country or a different place, or wanted to make a switch in the middle of the year, in the middle of the school year, they could. And typically our big vacation is our summer vacation, and that is half of June and then July and August. And so those are good questions. And then in terms of the day, our day starts at 7:30, and then our academic piece ends at 2:15. And that's when clubs and activities start, some of the athletic practices, things like that. We don't have classes on Saturdays, but we do often have activities, clubs, athletics, and things like that on the weekends.
Perfect. Now, I also have something related to international students, but of course also to our sending towns. How do they know what math class they can take? Who's gonna guide them through that process?
So that's a very specific question and a really important one, because everyone comes to us with different levels of math. So depending on the math you took when you were in middle school, what will happen is we can assess what you've taken and what you've accomplished, and then also give you a math placement if necessary. But you know, the way our classes work is that you should be placed in the class that's appropriate for your level. So it may be true that the majority of grade 9 students are taking Algebra 1. But if you're an advanced student in math and you've already taken Algebra 1, you can easily be placed into Algebra 2 with either a placement test or just the fact that your teacher in 8th grade may have recommended that you are ready for that Algebra 2 level. That being said, you can really move through the math program very quickly if you're someone who wants to do that and take some of those higher level calculus A, B, and BC classes that are really challenging and certainly look great for really competitive colleges. Or if you're someone who needs to take math a little slower and needs a little more time, you can start at a little bit of a lower level. You can go through it slowly so that you really build those skills and make sure that you're ready for that next level. But that's a good question. Most of our freshmen start with an Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 class. And every once in a while, we have a freshman who's even beyond that, and they start with a geometry or even a pre-calculus class. So that really does all depend. And that is another area where your guidance counselor and your recommendations from your previous school will come into play to make sure that we place you in the correct math.
Okay. I have another question that I can tell came from a parent. How are parents notified of grades and progress?
Yep, definitely this is a parent question. We have two ways to get information. One is that we have the Woodstock Academy app. It can be downloaded on your phone. It's a little WA icon, and on it, it has all the daily announcements, everything that's going on in athletics and activities, what you might need to know. And then the other app is our PowerSchool app. PowerSchool is our student information system that we use, that the teachers put all of their grades into. Parents can have full access to that, where they can see assignments, they can see attendance, and they can even see sometimes like if a student owes some money, like they need to pay for the yearbook or something like that. So parents can sort of have that full information. As a parent myself, I've utilized it sometimes a lot because I'm a little worried about a class and or my child completing their assignments. And other times I just use it to check once in a while to make sure that everything's going okay and that assignments are in. So I think it's a really nice tool. And the PowerSchool app can even be used to communicate directly with your teacher if you want to send them a note, something like that. But all of our teachers are really well versed in email, and certainly teachers all have an extension and email address they can be reached at. So if a parent were to have a question, they could just reach out and talk to them if it was something beyond just looking at the missed assignments or the graded assignments and things like that.
Perfect.
Awesome. Hi, Amy. Jacque here. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I know Katherine mentioned our international population. Just wanted to know, a student wanted to know, how many languages do we offer?
At this point, we do offer 5 languages. We offer Spanish, Italian, German, Latin, and Mandarin. And sometimes we do have teachers or staff members here who will offer other languages more in a club setting. So our Latin teacher, Mrs. Beck, has often offered Greek as a club because she can teach both, but it's not an official class. And we've also had a few different teachers who have helped kids after school work on Japanese. So those were our 5 official languages, but we do have a lot of exploration in different languages. We do also currently have a club of American Sign Language.
Awesome, thank you. And then one other question. While our students are studying very hard, they're participating in extracurricular activities through sports and other clubs. A student wanted to know a little bit about the social aspect. If I have friends who may live in the boarding community, am I allowed to visit on the weekends or stay outside of the normal scheduled time that the academy's open?
Sure. Our Res Life staff will kind of help with that. There's like sign in, sign out processes, just making sure that we know who's on campus and we know who's not on campus. So if a student is a day student, lives in Woodstock and is friends with someone who is from Italy and lives in the dorm, and either the student from the dorm wants to go to their house or the student from the local town wants to come onto campus and hang out, there's just a signing in and signing out process. Very simple, just making sure we know where everybody is, and then cover any sort of safety and curfew type of rules and things like that. Obviously right now, while we're recording this, we're under some more strict restrictions because of just the COVID situation and trying to make sure that we're not having too much interaction with outside of what might be our pod or our family unit. So right now our dorm kids are kind of in their own family unit and our families are in their family unit, but in better times and in safer times, we want as much interaction and friendship making as possible.
Awesome, thank you.
Amy, I have one more question in my batch that I was able to find here. So Woodstock has grown significantly in the last few years, most notably by purchasing an entire second campus for the school. So I have, looks like the parent and the student are asking, how will they get from one campus to the other if they have classes on one or the other campus?
Sure. So there's a pretty simple shuttle system that we have created. And I think it really helps students get obviously from one place to the other, and it allows us to utilize our facility to the best advantage that we can. So on our North Campus, we have the majority of our classroom spaces, but we do have classes like music, some of our physical education, our world language down on South Campus. So if a student has their first block class of English on North Campus, they'd arrive at North Campus either by their parent or by a bus, or they're living right on campus, and they would take that class of English, and then they would have a certain amount of time in between the passing to take our shuttles, which would be located right out front of the school, down to South Campus. It takes about 3.5 to 5 minutes probably on the bus. And they get down there, and then they might go to their music class on South Campus. They then might go back to North to have lunch, to have math, and then to have social studies. And they would finish on North Campus. So there's the bus runs all the time. If, for example, the student wasn't out on the bus in between the classes perfectly because they needed to talk to a parent or they needed to pop into their guidance counselor, and so they were just a little bit late, the buses are always moving, so they may have to wait a few extra minutes, but they just bring a pass or just tell their teacher that they had to meet with whoever, and it's usually really not a problem. So we've done this for about 4 years now. It was certainly a big change when we started in 2018, but we are really well, really organized at it, and able to move the kids back and forth, and they enjoy being able to be in both places. So that's really helpful.
And I actually realized I did have one more question for you. You had mentioned before in an earlier question that for the most part, students take 4 classes at a time. So Charles in Woodstock was actually asking, how many classes do you take in a year? Is it 8 or can it be less? Can it be more?
Sure. Students take anywhere between 6 and 8 classes. Ultimately, we look at the 4 years that they're here, and we want them at minimum to graduate with 25 credits. Most of our students graduate anywhere with as many as 30 to 32 credits at the end of their 4 years. Most of the students here are trying to maximize their classes, take as many electives and things that they can take. So each semester they have 4 opportunities to take a credit. So they would have 8 credit opportunities in the year. Sometimes it's true that you have a really tough schedule. So you might have a semester where you have AP Chemistry and Calculus and English 3. Those are some really tough classes. A student might say, I'm not going to take a 4th class this semester. I'm going to take that study hall because I need that extra time because I'm also an athlete or I'm also very involved in the musical. And so I need to just have some extra time during my day to get some of my work done, to do some studying, etc. Other times students might say, no, I just want to have as many classes as I can. So in the year, we try to make sure students have 8 classes, but if there's a reason that they would advocate, that either their guidance counselor would advocate or the student would advocate for having a study hall here or there, that makes sense. There are a few classes that are half credit courses. Our physical education classes are half credit. Some of our music courses are half credit. So it may be true that you don't have an entire credit or an entire block off for study hall every day, but you might have a study hall every other day. And in that case, the student might earn 7.5 credits in a year versus the 8 credits. So I think that while that is really an individualized question, each person may have a different answer to that. For the most part, our kids take that many classes. And then when they're seniors, we're really mean to them and we say, you have to take 6 credits, and then you have to pass at least 5 in order to graduate. It's like an extra step. But most of our seniors are taking 8 credits and just trying to build up as many classes that they can. In fact, many of them are even taking college credits. So they're looking to either shorten their time in college or just give them some more flexibility with once they get into college, and then they've already maybe taken their English or their calculus class, things like that. So those are some good questions. All right, well, I think we've done a pretty good job of handling a large number of questions that span the academics, the athletics, some of the special interests. What we would encourage anyone who watched this today to do, if you have specific questions, there's a couple of things that can happen. One, definitely we're open for tours. On our website, under the Future Centaurs page, you can find when those tours are occurring and you can sign up for those. Right now, we're pretty limited to 1 family per session, but as things change, we may expand that. So if families are local and they really want to come onto campus, that would be great. If a family is not so local and can't really make it to campus, but would like to do some sort of a virtual meeting with one of the people you see here today, shoot us a quick email, admissions@woodstockacademy.org. There's also a first steps form to fill out on the website that you can just give us some basic information and we'll get back to you and try to figure out if you've got questions we need to answer, if you need to talk to somebody else specifically about something going on at the Academy. And then other than that, just sort of follow us on social media. We've got a great Facebook page and some other accounts that are all connected that help you understand what's going on here. And other than that, we hope to see everyone soon, and we'll start again in terms of a new school year in the fall of 2021. And so we're hoping to really see everyone out there listening as future centaurs is what we say. So we want all of our future centaurs here in the fall of 2021. But anyway, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us today. And hopefully we answered as many questions as we could. Have a great day. Bye.